Hello everyone, this is Real Undercover Stories. We ask for 5 seconds of your time. Please press the subscribe button, click the arrow, and turn on the bell to help the Real Undercover Stories channel. After watching the video, if you find it good, please leave a like and a comment. Thank you everyone.
It was his first morning behind the counter. Jackson still fumbled with the register when the waitress beside him whispered, "Busy day. We'll probably get a decent amount of tips. Don't forget, half goes to Mark, like always." Nobody flinched. No one questioned it. It was routine, like filling napkin holders or refilling the sugar jar. But Jackson froze. Not because he was new, but because he wasn't. He was the founder of the entire cafe chain, and in that quiet, casual sentence he saw everything he had built, slipping into the wrong hands. On paper, the store was thriving, but in that moment, he realized the numbers meant nothing. If they were built on silence. If this story already hit something in you, stick around, share it, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that speak to the heart. That one sentence about tips stayed in his head. It didn't come from nowhere. It landed on top of years. Years earlier, Jackson had stood behind a different counter. Cheap sneakers, aching feet, a tip jar that decided if he bought real dinner or instant noodles. He remembered the panic when hours were cut, the way managers talked only in targets and labor costs, never in rent or medicine or kids. Back then, he made a quiet promise. If he ever owned a place, people would work hard, but not live on fear. The first cafe he opened felt like that promise made real. Warm light, good coffee, staff who laughed. Then more stores came, more meetings, more graphs. Somewhere along the way, the promise became a line item. That was why the first email bothered him so much. It was short, careful. Maybe I'm wrong, but tips don't really reach us. Weeks later came another. Different name, same worry. Manager keeps most of the tips. We're scared to say anything. They were easy to ignore in a busy inbox. Just a few lines. No hard proof, but Jackson read them late at night. Alone. The words sounded like old versions of himself. On his dashboard, one store glowed green. Top revenue. High reviews. Manager. Mark Haynes. In meetings, people praised Mark. "He's the guy we should copy." Jackson looked from the smiling chart to the nervous emails. One of them didn't belong. Either the staff were lying, or the numbers were. The thought made his chest tighten. So he chose the only way he trusted. He would go there himself, quietly. He chose Mark's store on purpose, a small town in Ohio, not the city, not the flagship. The cafe sat between a pharmacy and a hardware store. Faded signs, old parking lines, exactly the kind of place where routine becomes a comfort. In the mornings, people drifted in slowly. Gray hair, heavy coats, men who had worked with their hands. Women who carried pill organizers in their bags. They did not come for latte art. They came for a hot mug, a familiar voice, a place to sit where someone might ask, "How are you really?" Jackson walked in before sunrise with his new name tag. No one turned twice. He was just another worker. From the doorway, the store looked like his dream. Simple, honest, needed. He hoped the emails were wrong. A small part of him already knew they weren't. On his first training day, Jackson met Mark. Mark arrived a little late, not rushed, not sorry, comfortable. His shirt was crisp, his tie sharp. He smelled of cologne, not coffee. He shook hands with customers first, called a few of them buddy, sweetheart. They laughed. They liked him. Then he turned to the staff. "Team, this is our new hire," he said. "Here we run on speed, upsells, and 5-star ratings." He spoke about metrics, ticket size, throughput, week-over-week growth. Jackson listened. On the surface, it was textbook. Exactly the language head office rewarded. But something was missing. No mention of names, or lives, or the people those numbers sat on. Mark had the confidence of a man protected by good reports. Maybe too protected. If Mark ran the reports, Lisa ran the floor. She was the one who stood beside Jackson and actually showed him the work. "This screen is orders, this one's payment. If you forget, just ask again," she said. Her voice was calm. Not sweet, not harsh, just steady. She greeted most customers by name, knew who had lost a spouse, who was saving for a grandkid's college, who should not have too much sugar. In a quiet moment, she mentioned rent, very lightly, then her mother's treatment, then the night shifts at the supermarket. She brushed it off with a half smile. "As long as I keep my hours, I'll be fine." Jackson watched her move. Quick, precise, careful. On the schedule, she was shift lead. In reality, she was the reason the place did not fall apart. Late morning, the tone of the cafe changed. The door started opening faster. Boots and sneakers, work jackets and scrubs, orders piled up, regular coffee, egg sandwiches, refills, to-go cups, special requests. Lisa slid between tables like she had done it forever. Ramon tried to keep up at the register. His hands shook a little when the line grew long. Jackson burned his fingers once, then again. He swallowed the pain and forced a sorry with each mistake. The room buzzed. Not angry, just urgent. People wanted to eat, then get back to the rest of their day. Near the entrance, Mark watched. "Keep it moving," he called out. "Time is money, folks." His shirt stayed clean. His hands stayed dry. When the rush finally thinned, the tip jar was almost full. It felt like a small victory, for a minute. When the line was gone, the cafe felt heavier, not quieter, heavier. Lisa leaned her hip against the counter, just for a second. Her hand pressed into the small of her back. Jackson noticed the way she exhaled. That slow, tired kind of breath. The kind you give when no one is supposed to be looking. He offered to finish wiping tables. She laughed once, short. "If I rest now, I won't move again," she said. She mentioned the second job like it was nothing. Nights at the grocery store, it adds up. Mentioned her mother's pills. Insurance doesn't cover everything. Her jokes cut off mid-sentence sometimes, like her mind ran into a wall labeled bills and stopped there. The store report said labor costs were optimized. Looking at her face, Jackson thought of a different word. Drained. At closing, they brought the tip jar to the back. Everyone drifted closer without saying they were doing it. Lisa opened the lid. Bills and coins spilled into her hands. She smiled just a little. "Good day," she said. "You all earned this." For a moment, Jackson saw something like relief. Rent, groceries, gas, all packed into a small pile of crumpled cash. Then Mark walked in. He didn't knock, didn't ask. He reached down, took almost half the stack, folded it smooth. "Management cut," he said. "No traffic, no training, no tips. You know the deal." No one answered. Ramon stared at the table. Lisa's shoulders dropped a fraction. The room felt smaller, like the air had to stretch and suddenly couldn't. It wasn't theft in the dark. It was theft in daylight, with a smile. That night, Jackson opened his laptop. The cafe was gone. Only light from the screen and the taste of burnt coffee in his mouth. He pulled up Mark's store. Month after month. Revenue strong. Bonuses paid. High-performing unit, stamped in green. He scrolled to the line for average tips. The number sat there. Small, clean, wrong. He thought of Dana sliding a 20 into the jar, of the thick roll Lisa had poured into her hands, of Mark's smooth management cut. The system showed extra value created, but somehow it did not show where that value ended up. For years, Jackson had trusted these charts. They had built his reputation, his image. Now they felt like a wall between him and the truth. He closed his eyes for a second. The faces in that small cafe would not leave. The numbers suddenly felt thinner than paper. The next morning, Jackson went back behind the counter. Same apron, same name tag, different eyes. He watched more closely now. Who smiled? Who flinched when Mark walked by? Around mid-morning, an older woman came in. Silver hair, thick glasses. Lisa brightened. "Morning, Dana. Usual today?" They talked like family, about doctor visits, about pills that kept getting more expensive, about a husband who was doing okay, for now. When Dana left, she slipped a 20 into the tip jar. Her hand lingered on the glass. "You kids are the reason I still come out," she said. "Coffee is coffee, but you remember me." Jackson memorized the bill. The way Lisa's face softened. That 20 wasn't just money, it was gratitude, in paper form. By the end of the shift, Jackson checked the jar again. He didn't stare, just a quick glance. The pile inside was smaller than it should be. He did the math in his head. Dana's 20, the 10s, the 5s. They weren't all there. No one reached for the jar this time. Lisa wiped the counter a little too long. Ramon busied himself stacking cups that were already straight. The room felt heavier. Words seemed to fall short before they left anyone's mouth. Jackson didn't say anything. He didn't have to. He knew. This wasn't a one-time thing. It had the feeling of something old. Something everyone had learned to step around. The kind of wrong you stop naming, because naming it doesn't change it, only increases the fear. Later, when the store was almost empty, Jackson caught a moment alone with Lisa. No customers, no Mark. He kept his voice low. "Is it always like this with the tips?" Lisa's hands froze over a stack of napkins. For a second, she tried to shrug it off. Then the shrug fell apart. "Mark says it's policy," she said. "He runs the place. We just follow." She told him about her mother's hospital visits, the copay, the meds insurance wouldn't touch. "If I lose this job, we're done," she whispered. "No rent, no meds, so I keep quiet. I smile. I let it go." She gave a small laugh that didn't sound like one. "As long as I still have my shifts, I can live with it." Jackson heard something crack inside that sentence. Inside himself, too. In the kitchen, the air was warmer and thicker. Oven heat. The smell of bread and sugar trying to rise in old pans. Cheryl worked there. A woman in her 50s. Strong arms, soft eyes. She chatted as she arranged pastries. Nothing serious at first. Weather. Prices at the grocery store. Then, very simply, she said, "Mark cut my hours last month. Said labor costs were too high." She tapped a bag of cheaper flour. "Switched this in too. As long as the report looks good, no one up there cares what we do down here." She didn't know that up there was standing right beside her, listening. The words stuck to Jackson. No anger in them. Just a tired belief. That sentence hurt more than any email, because it was true, and she fully expected it to stay that way. Later that week, Mark called everyone to the front. No chairs, no coffee, just a circle of tired people standing. "Speed's dropped," he said. "Ratings, too. Anyone want to explain why?" No one answered. Eyes fell to the floor, to their shoes, to anything but his face. "I'll be straight," Mark went on. "If this keeps up, I cut hours. Easy as that. Plenty of people want your jobs." The words were clean, not shouted, but they landed like blows. Lisa's jaw clenched. Ramon's shoulders curled in. Cheryl folded her arms like bracing for a cold wind. There was no space for "I'm tired." "My mom is sick." "The flour is cheaper." Only space for "Yes, sir," and silence. Jackson felt heat rise in his chest. Not at the numbers, at the way fear was being used as a tool. In the stockroom, later, Jackson heard a voice, low, pressed between boxes. Ramon was on the phone. "I know I'm behind on rent," he said. "I'm trying. Hours got cut. Tips are—" He paused, searched for a word he couldn't say. He listened for a while, nodded at nothing. "I'll see if I can pick up another gig. Third job. Yeah, I'll sleep later." When the call ended, Ramon just stood there, one hand on the shelf, head bowed. Jackson stepped in like he hadn't heard a thing. Ramon forced a smile, a thin one. For people like him, Jackson realized, every dollar in that tip jar mattered. Groceries, gas, baby formula. Taking from that jar wasn't policy. It was taking from a family's margin of safety, from their right to breathe without panic for one night. That night, Jackson didn't sleep. He opened more than just Mark's dashboard. He pulled reports from the whole chain. Turnover rates, old complaints, tickets marked resolved that had never really been answered. A pattern began to show. Whenever someone raised a concern about that store, Mark sent back a perfect slide deck. Graphs up, costs down, smiling photos from some team event. The complaint would fade, buried under color-coded charts. Jackson felt a twist in his stomach. He had praised this man in meetings, held him up as an example. How many times, he thought, have I let clean numbers erase messy people? He closed the laptop slowly. Something had to change, and this time it couldn't be just another memo from up there. The next day started like many others. Coffee, orders, small talk. Round noon, a big group came in. Church friends, maybe, or a club from the senior center. They were loud in a warm way, joking, teasing Lisa, thanking Ramon for remembering their usual orders. When they left, they filled the tip jar. Bills folded over bills. A little mountain of appreciation. For a moment, the room felt lighter. Lisa's eyes shone. Cheryl even laughed. Then Mark walked over, no hesitation. He scooped most of the bills into a company envelope. "Great day, team," he said. "This motivates us all, right?" The jar looked almost empty again. Jackson didn't speak. Didn't need another example. In that small, quiet theft, his decision hardened. Next time they all met in one room, there would be no more pretending. A few days later, an email went out. Mandatory in-store training, internal review, corporate visit. Mark read it and grinned. "Looks like they want to learn from the best," he said. "We've been killing it." He told the staff it would be a chance to show off their success, to prove their store was top tier. No one cheered. They just nodded. The word review didn't sound like praise to them. Lisa worried about being blamed. Ramon worried about losing more hours. Cheryl worried about saying the wrong thing. Jackson stayed in character. The quiet new hire. He watched Mark's confidence. It wasn't the calm of a good man. It was the calm of someone who believed the system would always protect him, as long as the charts stayed green. That belief was about to be tested. Training day came. They closed early, pushed tables together. Everyone sat. Mark stood. He started the meeting like he started everything else. With numbers. He talked about sales, about growth, about their superior performance in a challenging market. When the visitor from head office asked, "And how do you all feel working here?" the answers came out thin. "It's fine. It's good. I've learned a lot." The words were right. The eyes were wrong. Jackson watched their faces, saw the tight jaws, the tired shoulders, the way no one looked at the tip jar sitting in the corner. In that room, fear was stronger than honesty, for now. He knew what needed to happen next, and he knew it had to come from him. The question came in sideways. Not, "Why are you taking their tips?" Just a gentle, "How do rewards work here? Do staff share in that?" Mark stepped in before anyone else could breathe. "I handle training and traffic," he said. "My team gets hourly. I don't. So a portion of tips comes to management. It's only fair." He spoke like it was policy, like it had always been there. He pointed to the printed reports on the table. "Since I took over, sales are up. Labor is under control. Reviews are strong. That says enough, doesn't it?" Some heads nodded. Not in agreement, in habit. Jackson watched him use numbers like a shield, not as a way to serve people, but as a way to excuse what he already wanted to do. There was a small pause, the kind that could open a door or close it. Jackson let it hang, then asked softly, "And if the team could speak freely, what would they say about tips?" Silence. Real silence. Lisa looked down at her hands. Ramon stared at the window, at nothing. Cheryl pressed her lips together. Mark's eyes flicked toward Lisa. A tiny movement. Enough. She felt it. Everyone did. This was the edge. On one side, rent, medicine, shifts. On the other, truth. No one moved. The moment shivered, and almost passed. Jackson could see it slipping. If he left it here, fear would win again. He knew what he had to do next, and it would change the room. The visitor from head office was asked to introduce himself. Jackson stood up. His chair scraped softly against the floor. He took off the name tag, the one that said Jack, trainee. "My name is Jackson Cole," he said, "the founder of this chain." The words hit the room like cold water. Lisa's eyes widened. Ramon's mouth fell open. Cheryl's hand flew to her chest. Suddenly, the late-night questions made sense. The quiet watching. The way he noticed things most managers didn't. Mark's face lost its color. He tried to smile, but the shape broke halfway. No one spoke for a long second. They were all recalculating. If the new guy had seen everything, what else had he seen? And more important, what was he going to do with it? Jackson did not raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply laid out what he had seen. Days on the floor. Tips taken in plain sight. Hours threatened. Fear used like a hammer. "I didn't read this in a report," he said. "I worked beside you." Then he turned to Lisa. "If you weren't afraid of losing your job, what would you say right now?" Lisa's throat tightened. The safe answer pressed against her teeth. She swallowed it. "Tips belong to us," she said finally. "To the people serving, carrying, cleaning. We just want fairness." Her voice shook, but it did not break. Ramon added, "Ours get cut when we ask questions." Cheryl spoke about cheap flour and ignored complaints. One by one, the things they had swallowed for months came out into the open air. Jackson listened. Then he opened a folder. He laid down the system reports, tips recorded, shift counts, payout logs. Next to them, he placed printed stills from security footage, images of Mark taking cash from the jar. Over and over, the room did not gasp. It just went even more quiet. Mark tried. "I thought it was best for the store. The words felt thin, even to him. There was nowhere for them to land. For the first time, no chart could cover the gap between what was shown on paper and what everyone had just seen with their own eyes. Jackson felt the anger in the room shift, from doubt to certainty. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a choice. When he finally spoke, Jackson's voice was steady. "Tips," he said, "belong to the people who stand on their feet all day, who remember orders, who clean up spills, who get up at 4 a.m. to open the doors." He looked at each of them. "Lisa, Ramon, Cheryl. This store will repay every dollar taken from your tips," he continued. "We'll audit back as far as we can, not as a favor, as a correction." He added something else. "This won't stop here. We're reviewing every location, every perfect report." It wasn't a speech. It was a line in the sand. Relief didn't explode. It unfurled. Slowly. Like muscles that had been clenched for too long. Everyone expected the next words to be, "You're fired." Some even wanted to hear it. Jackson surprised them. "Mark," he said, "you're removed as manager, effective now." A beat. "If you want to stay, you can work as a server, on the floor, on hourly, with the same tip rules as everyone else." A flicker went through the room. Not joy, not pity, something in between. It wasn't an easy mercy. Serving meant sore feet, late nights, waiting on people who might not look you in the eye. But it was the only way, Jackson thought, for Mark to feel what he had treated as policy. A second chance, without the shiny title to hide behind. After the meeting, Jackson asked Lisa to stay. The chairs were still out of place, the air still thick. "I want you to lead this store," he said. "Shift supervisor. Maybe more later." Lisa shook her head at first. "I'm not a leader. I just work," she said. Jackson almost smiled. "People come here because of how you treat them. Staff lean on you without thinking about it. That is leadership." She thought of her mother's meds, of overdue bills, of the team watching her. Saying yes felt scary, almost too big. But for the first time, her daily kindness had a name. Value. She nodded, slowly. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll try." In that small try, a different future started. Back at headquarters, Jackson didn't forget. He couldn't. He called his team into a meeting room. No glossy slides this time. "We've been measuring the wrong things alone," he said. "Sales matter, but so do people." He asked for new metrics. Staff turnover. Anonymous feedback actually read. Complaints tracked to solutions, not to silence. And one more rule. Every quarterly review, he said, must include at least one story. From staff, from customers, not just digits on a screen. Some looked unsure. They had grown comfortable hiding behind graphs, but a few heads nodded. They had seen what happened when numbers were used as walls. They were ready to use them as windows instead. It was a start, not clean, not perfect, real. Weeks later, the small-town cafe looked almost the same. Same chipped tables, same slow mornings. But something in the air had shifted. Lisa's smile reached her eyes now. Ramon worried a little less about his rent. Cheryl baked with better flour again. Dana still came in for her usual. She still left tips. This time, everyone knew exactly where they went. Jackson visited once more, quietly. Sat in a corner. Watched. He knew one thing for sure now. Pretty numbers don't prove a good place. How people are treated does. Somewhere out there, someone listening to this has worked under a Mark, or has been a Lisa, staying quiet to survive. If this story touched a nerve, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more stories that stand up for people, you can stay with this channel and listen to the next one with us.